Okay, so if you've been anywhere near like an online shopping cart in the last couple of years, maybe chasing a super cheap jacket or, I don't know, feeding those virtual fish on Temu,
Uh-huh.
you have definitely felt the pull of SHEIN and TEMU. These companies, they're not just big, right? They feel like the ultimate example right now of that Chinese Chu-hai strategy venturing overseas. They've totally changed how we shop online.
They really have. And that's what we're doing today, sort of digging into this pile of sources you've pulled together. We've got reports from human rights groups, some hard business analysis, even transcripts from UK parliamentary
Let's
hearings
see it.
to really map out how these companies built this, well, this ultra-fast engine. We need to get our heads around the speed, the efficiency, which is genuinely revolutionary, but also at the same time, the really intense criticism they're facing.
Yeah, criticism about everything from like supply chain transparency, labor rights, and even these massive politically charged IPO plans they have.
Exactly. So the story we're diving into, it's messy. You've got amazing logistics clashing with trade policy loopholes and some really serious allegations about working conditions. We have notes from those tense January 2025 parliamentary sessions.
Yeah, so those transcripts, pretty revealing.
And then counterclaims from the companies, plus specific findings from groups like Public Eye and the BBC. So let's try and unpack the engine itself first.
Okay, yeah. Let's start with SHEIN. I mean,
Yeah.
when we talk about SHEIN, it's like a masterclass in being digital first.
Mm-hmm.
Their genius, it seems, is using AI, using online tools to spot a trend, basically the moment it pops up on TikTok,
Almost in real time.
and then immediately feeding that info into their supplier network. And that network is incredibly dense, right? Mostly small and medium places packed around Guangzhou and South China.
And that speed, that's the absolute game changer. You know, Zara, H&M, the old fast fashion giants, they used to brag about a 3 or 4 week cycle.
Right, which seemed fast then.
SHEIN just blows that away. We're talking 5 to 7 days. From spotting the trend online to having a product ready to ship. Think about it. Their designers pump out over 200 new products every single day.
200 a day? How is that even possible?
Well, it's because they perfected this consumer-to-manufacturer model, C2M. They test small batches, see what sells in real time via the app, and then they ramp up mass production only for the winners. No guesswork.
Yeah, the market just ate it up. The numbers are staggering. By late 2022, SHEIN had grabbed, what, 50% of the entire U.S. fast fashion market?
50%, just leaving established players miles behind. H&M was stuck at 16%, Zara at 13%. It was a complete takeover.
Okay, so then Temu enters the scene,
Yeah.
owned by PDD Holdings, right, the Pinduoduo parent company.
Yep. And Temu comes in with that same rock-bottom price strategy, but they added this huge layer of, well, engagement, almost making it a game as much as a shopping site.
That's the thing I noticed. They launched in the U.S. in 22, and by September 23, they already had 61 million monthly active users.
Yeah.
That's massive growth.
It's huge.
And it's that gamification, isn't it? You're encouraged to come back daily, tend your little virtual farm or feed fish,
Yeah.
to get coupons or discounts. It turns buying cheap stuff into this weirdly addictive daily habit. It's kind of brilliant, but also maybe a little manipulative.
Oh, it's a very effective retention strategy, no doubt. But look, this incredible efficiency, this addictive engagement, that's not the only thing keeping those prices so low. There's this massive structural advantage they're using, a loophole, really.
Okay, let's pivot to that. The legal side, the trade rules, we have to talk about the U.S. de minimis rule.
Right. This is sort of fundamental to how they operate internationally, especially into the U.S. The de minimis rule basically says shipments valued under $800 can come into the U.S. without import duties.
$800.
And maybe just as importantly, they bypass most of the routine customs inspections because SHEIN and TEMU ship directly from China to you, the consumer, in small individual packages.
They slip right under that $800 threshold almost every time.
Exactly. So they avoid the tariffs that their big competitors who ship in huge containers to warehouses have to pay.
And the cost of that loophole. I saw a figure from the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. They estimated the U.S. loses maybe $10 billion a year in tariffs because of strategies like this.
$10 billion. That's not small change. It's effectively a massive subsidy for this direct-to-consumer model.
And other countries are noticing, right? You mentioned Brazil.
Yeah, exactly. Brazil changed its rules recently. They started taxing imported packages even below $50 more heavily, explicitly to try and shield their local businesses from this flood of ultra-cheap imports.
Okay, so you've got this amazing business model, this trade advantage, but also growing regulatory heat and political pushback.
Right.
Which brings us neatly to SHEIN's big corporate challenge, trying to go public.
Right. Their first attempt, listing in New York, basically got shut down by U.S. political opposition, concerns about practices, supply chains.
The whole package.
The whole package. So they pivoted. They set their sights on London, the LSE, for a potentially huge IPO. Maybe $50 billion was the initial talk.
But even that faced headwinds.
Oh, yeah. All this scrutiny definitely took a bite out of the valuation. There was a report in February of 2025 saying investors were pushing SHEIN hard to slash that IPO value way down, maybe closer to $30 billion.
Wow. So the market's clearly pricing in these risks,
Yeah.
the political heat, the regulatory uncertainty.
Absolutely. And probably the biggest risk factor, the one that connects back to that super fast engine, is labor. The conditions under which these clothes are actually made.
Let's go there now. Let's shift to the human cost behind the speed. We need to look at Guangzhou, the SHEIN village investigations by the BBC by Public Eye.
This is where it gets really concerning. Because that C2M model, that amazing speed, it creates this constant, relentless pressure for flexibility in the supply chain. And what the investigation strongly suggests is that this flexibility is often achieved by, well, systematically breaking Chinese labor laws.
What's the headline finding?
The hours.
Yeah.
The sheer number of hours. Workers at many suppliers apparently face 75-hour work weeks. Routinely. We're talking like 8 a.m. starts, finishing well past 10 p.m. at night.
75 hours.
Often with only 1 day off per month. That's way beyond legal limits.
And how does that happen? Is it the pay structure?
It seems directly linked. Many workers are on piece rate wages, paid per item they complete, not per hour.
Ah.
Combine that with the reported basic wage, just 2,400 yuan, according to one report, which is well below what the Asia Floor Wage Alliance calculates as a living wage, around 6,512 yuan.
So to make ends meet, they have to work those crazy hours. The low price is essentially subsidized by their time.
That seems to be the implication. And it's not just hours. The investigations also flagged major safety issues, legal failings, workers often without proper signed contracts, which Chinese law required.
And basic safety stuff, like blocked exits.
Yeah, researchers noted things like blocked corridors, blocked stairs, especially in some of the smaller workshops. Really basic, but potentially deadly safety failures.
Okay, so that's the picture from the investigators. What does SHEIN say? They must have a response to this.
They do. They push back, and they point to significant compliance efforts they put in place. They emphasize a zero-tolerance policy for forced labor. They talk about their supplier code of conduct, aligning with ILO standards.
International Labor Organization.
Right. And they highlight a massive increase in auditing. They reported doing nearly 4,000 on-site audits in China in 2023 alone.
4,000. Who does these audits?
They say the vast majority, 92%, were done by independent third-party agencies. They're also putting money into it. They've allocated $70 million over 5 years for something called the Supplier Community Empowerment Program, SCEP.
So investing in improvements, auditing. What about specific violations, like underage workers?
They've actually been somewhat transparent about finding problems, maybe to show their systems are working. They acknowledged finding 2 cases of underage labor back in 2023 and then 2 more since October 2023. They say this led them to tighten policy, making any instance of child labor an immediate termination violation for a supplier.
Okay, so they acknowledge issues, claim they're fixing them, but there's still this really big shadow hanging over everything, isn't there? The Xinjiang cotton issue.
Yeah, that remains the most politically explosive one. The concerns about forced labor in cotton production in the Xinjiang region are, widely publicized. And this blew up for SHEIN when Bloomberg reported back in November 2022.
I remember this. Lab tests found Xinjiang cotton.
Exactly. Lab tests found cotton originating from Xinjiang in garments SHEIN had shipped to the U.S. That really intensified the scrutiny.
And this leads directly to that parliamentary hearing drama in the UK, right?
Yeah.
January 2025.
It absolutely set the stage. SHEIN's General Counsel for Europe, Middle East, and Africa was in front of the UK's Business and Trade Committee, and they pressed her repeatedly. Does SHEIN source cotton from China? Specifically, does it source from Xinjiang?
And her response?
Well, that was the thing. There wasn't really a clear response. She repeatedly said she was not able to assist with that kind of detailed operational information during the live hearing, promised to write back later with details.
Which doesn't sound great in a public hearing. How did the committee react?
They were not impressed. The committee chair basically wrapped up saying they were, and I'm quoting here, pretty horrified by the lack of evidence and had zero confidence in the integrity of SHEIN's supply chains.
Wow. Zero confidence. That's brutal. That non-answer really spoke volumes, didn't it?
It really signaled how difficult it is for them to be transparent on this specific issue, even when facing lawmakers. Interestingly, TEMU was also at that hearing.
Oh, how did they handle it?
They offered a much sharper contrast. TEMU's representative stated that, first, less than 1% of the products sold on their platform into the UK even contain cotton. And second, crucially, they said they explicitly do not permit sellers based in the Xinjiang region to operate on their platform at all.
Huh. That's a much clearer line.
Okay.
Okay, so all this controversy, the Xinjiang issue, the labor hours, it all feeds back into that final battle. The London IPO.
Yeah.
Human rights groups are actively campaigning against it.
They're putting up a major fight. Amnesty International UK, the Stop Uyghur Genocide campaign, they publicly urged the FCA, the UK's financial regulator, to just block the listing entirely.
Calling it a what? A badge of shame.
A badge of shame for the London Stock Exchange if it went ahead, given all these documented concerns about labor rights, environmental impact.
And they're using legal arguments, too, not just moral ones.
Yes, they're pointing to potential violations of UK law, specifically the Modern Slavery Act and the Proceeds of Crime Act, arguing that profiting from goods potentially made with forced labor could fall foul of those laws.
But then you have the political reality, right? The UK government, or at least parts of it, might want the investment.
That's the tension, exactly. Reports indicated the UK Labour Party, likely to form the next government, was leaning towards supporting the listing, focusing on attracting major investment to Britain. But they added the caveat that any company listing must meet the highest regulatory standards.
So the classic jobs and money versus ethics and standards calculation playing out right there.
In real time, with billions on the line.
Okay, so let's try and pull this together for you, the listener. What does all this really mean? The core tension seems crystal clear. You have this unbelievable efficiency from SHEIN and TEMU, this 5 to 7 day turnaround, the C2M model.
Truly groundbreaking stuff from a logistics perspective.
But it seems completely reliant on these incredibly complex, often very opaque supply chains. And multiple investigations suggest these supply chains systematically bend or break labor laws, especially around working hours, contracts.
Right. So the next time you see that, $12 dress or $5 t-shirt pop up in your feed, and it seems too good to be true, well, you now know that price is likely subsidized.
Subsidized how?
Subsidized by that de minimis trade loophole, letting it skip tariffs, and subsidized by a manufacturing system in South China that appears to rely on pushing workers, often on piece rates, into these extreme 75-hour weeks just so they can earn a basic living. That's arguably the hidden cost in that ultra-low price tag.
That's a really powerful way to frame it. Okay, so here's a final thought to leave you with, something that maybe chew on.
Go on.
SHEIN is apparently so confident in its speed, its whole system, that it's now starting to offer its supply chain network as a service to other brands through something called Accelerator.
So selling their speed.
Yes, exactly. Selling their manufacturing engine as a service. So the provocative question is, what happens when this ultra-fast model, with all its embedded scrutiny, its labor risks, its transparency issues, what happens when that becomes the industry standard? Because everyone wants that speed. And ultimately, who's responsible for the conditions inside that engine when it's running not just for SHEIN, but for potentially dozens of other brands too?
Yeah, that's a really big question about where this is all heading. Who holds the responsibility when the model itself gets outsourced? Lots to think about there.